unless you're taking notes on your laptop, please put all your electronics away because we're going to be doing some interactive things today. Okay, so, woo-hoo-hoo. All right. Okay, so, so I think we last left off with malaria. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right, this lecture is going to make you want to wash your hands. Never eat and drink again. Yeah, you're so lucky. Okay, here we go. All right, so we last left off with red tide, right? Okay. Whoops. Well, it's warming up, I guess. Okay, glad to see we've got lights in here. This is good. Okay, so I had the news feed on, and I kid you not, if you go to ktla.com, they've got, don't do it right now, but on your list of things to do. But they were talking about there's a red tide off the coast of California right now, Southern California. And so there are baby dolphins, baby seals, mama dolphins washing up because of the domoic acid. That's the neurotoxin that the red tide makes, yeah.
Like dead.
Well, they're seizing, some of them are dead, some of them are out of their minds because they've got a toxicity, right? Okay? And then they die. But the problem is that, I don't know if you've ever, seals can flip themselves like 6 feet. You don't go up to them, especially when they're sick. So you get bit by a seal, man, talk about infection. So yeah, so they're telling people to stay away from the animals and calling animal control to get rid of them. But what? Yes, yeah, all the sea life, because they're out off the coast swimming in this red tide that's making domoic acid and causing them to freak out a little bit. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know anything about what's going on with this projector, but yeah, so there we go, that's much better. But yeah, so we just had talked about red tide. Oh my gosh, once again, predicting the future here. Okay, so this is kind of where we left off. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about some of these. We did this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we did this. We did amoebiasis. No. Okay. We're right here. Okay. Good to know. Oh, we got a ways to go. All right. Okay. So let's fill this in. Okay. What do we know about protozoans? They are mostly unicellular. There's a couple of exceptions. They're usually on the plant side of things. What are they? Autotroph? No. What are they? What did you put here? Let me see what I put here. Aerobic. Oh, of course, yeah. Aerobic. Yeah, okay. Heterotrophic. They inhabit water and fluids. Okay. Food digests in a vacuole. No wall. They may have an outer, what is called a pellicle or a cuticle. Okay. They do asexual division with binary fission and schizogeny. Okay. We're going to see that especially when we're talking about malaria. And sexually by gametes and gametogenesis. Okay? So, these are complex and hard to treat. Why are they hard to treat? Why are these cells hard to treat? Huh? Oh yeah, most of the medications we have are for cell wall. They don't have a cell wall. Okay, so the other thing I would put in here that is not on this slide is that they have what are called contractile vacuoles. And the reason I include that, vacuoles, okay, contractile vacuoles. Do you know what a contractile vacuole is? Okay, let's say you've got an amoeba. I like to draw amoebas because you don't have to do a particular shape. I love it. Okay, so here's an amoeba, What's the biggest organelle you can see in an amoeba? The nucleus. Okay, and they've got these like star-shaped things called contractile And okay, let's talk about the cells here. They're if most of these are in water, right? Okay, so if we do our hypertonic hypotonic thing, and we've got water everywhere here. Okay, water everywhere here. Here's the water. Okay, which solution is hypertonic? The amoeba is. What is hypotonic? The water. Which way is water going to flow? Into the inside. And what's going to happen to that amoeba? Okay, it's going to swell up, right? Okay, we can't do that. If it's going to survive, we can't do this. That's where contractile vacuoles come in. This one is closed, but as the amoeba takes on water because it's hypertonic, it swells up and then contracts and squirts that water out. Okay, I wish we had some of these. This is pretty cool, you know. But they have these contractile vacuoles at that. So everything that you see of these protists that are living in fluid, some kind of fluid, whether it's soil water or water, or you is a little bit easier. They're happy to be in you because what is your environment compared to the amoeba? It is isotonic, right? It's isotonic, okay? So, think about these things as you've got these protists that are, you know, potentially causing disease. You know, in their normal environment, those contractile vacuoles have to keep squirting, fill up with water and squirt out. Does everybody get that? Okay, that's really key to how they survive in the wild. Okay, so I've got a number of rules. I'm going to add another one to the rule book. The rule book is don't drink, no, not vodka, standing water. Okay? Do you watch those Survivor shows? You know, where they go, okay, yeah, and they're like, oh, I'm so thirsty, I'm just going to drink this standing water. And I'm like, no, don't do it! Why? Yeah, if it's standing water and it's outside, it's going to have protists in it, and you're going to get sick. So don't do it. Don't do it, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, all right. So you added that to your notes, so you know about contractile vacuoles and all that good stuff? Good, okay. Let's talk about some more things about the protozoan life cycle. A little more. Okay, so they've got a complex life cycle. Okay, trophozoites are part of their life cycle. They have a protective coat that they make, and we'll see this when we talk about, like, especially malaria. Okay, and they're most common in the tropical and subtropical regions. Okay, so yeah, so we've got amoebiasis, trichomoniasis, and malaria. There was a question on the exam: what is the most what causes the most deaths worldwide from an infectious disease? And looking at everybody's answers, over half of you answered heart disease. Okay, heart disease is not an infectious disease. Okay, what was the answer to that question? Malaria. Yeah, it was malaria by far. Okay, so yeah. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about some more parasites. Okay, so these are the human parasites, and they're usually, well, it's kind of hard to say because they've got different names. So they are classified by their motility. How are they moving? Okay, so we have the sarcodinas, which are the amoebas, the mastigophorias, which are flagellates, the ciliata, which are ciliates, and then the sporozoa, which is the apicomplexa. Okay, we'll go through these one at a time. Okay, do you think you need to know the different ones? Yes. Yes. Okay, good. Let's start talking about some of these things here. Okay, this is Mastigophoria, the flagellates. Okay, there's a lot of infectious disease that come out of this group, okay? And one of the things that you can recognize about these is they have this like undulating membrane that goes in and out, and they've got a flagella, okay? So here's another trypanosome. You see how weird that membrane is? It's kind of like, it's what? Like an eel, yeah. And so it's able to move pretty well. And most of these that we're going to talk about have an insect vector, okay? So let's talk about African sleeping sickness, okay? This is a tsetse fly. It tends to pick up these trypanosomes. You can see the areas of Africa where African sleeping sickness is endemic, okay? Why is this so important? Well, because we really don't have, I mean, when you look at this area of the world, if you do some epidemiology, what's the culture like? What's the agriculture like? What's the political thing? These are starving populations. Is there any way we're going to effectively treat that? Not usually, no, okay? Because the medications are hard to get and they're very expensive, and so they don't treat them. So what happens? You get bit by a tsetse fly. It injects some of these trypanosomes into you. These tend to like the brain, so they hang out in the brain tissue. And as your brain tissue starts to dissolve, as it's eaten away by these trypanosomes, you start sleeping. They call it sleeping, but what's really happening? You've got a traumatic brain injury, right? You got a traumatic brain injury. So what are you doing? You're losing consciousness. You're sleeping a lot. And once it reaches that point, it's really hard to treat, because what else do you have protecting your brain from things that are in the blood? Your BBB, right? Your blood-brain barrier. Okay, so that makes it even harder to treat these once you've got an infection like this. Okay. Any questions about this one? Okay. This one I've seen in real life. This is, and you will see it. Yeah.
The other one, is that one like common in the U.S.?
No, because you have to look at where the vector is. This tsetse fly doesn't live in the U.S. It has to be tropical or subtropical. Okay. As climate changes, that fly might change where it lives, and then we're going to see the expansion of the disease.
But maybe for another human, no?
No, it's not transmitted. No, this is all. What is it when it's it's a vector? Yeah, so this is vector transmitted. So you're out traveling in Africa, your partner gets it, you didn't get it. Can they transmit it to you? No. So, okay, good question. All right, let's talk about Chagas disease. Okay, here's Chagas disease, and you can see that undulating membrane in the trypanosome. Okay, and this is the insect vector. It's called the kissing bug. Okay, I have seen these at 29 Palms, okay, out in the desert. They have moved north. When I first started teaching micro back in 2003, we didn't have to worry in the U.S. too much about the kissing bug because it was as far north as northern Mexico. But as the climate has changed over the last 20 years, this bug moves north. Okay, now I'm not saying that the ones out I saw in 29 Palms hanging on the screen are going to carry these, but be aware, some of them do. They do carry these. So when you see movement of the vector, you're going to see movement of the disease. So the only time that we used to see back in the early 2000s, people that had Chagas disease, they lived in other places in the world and came to the United States, okay? And at one time, my friend was a transplant surgeon at USC, and he said 50% of his heart transplant patients had Chagas disease. And I said, well, that's complicated. He said, you bet it is, because what happens? Well, this trypanosome likes muscle, and so of course it goes to the heart, okay? These are people that were healthy up until they had a cardiac event in their teens or 20s, okay? And it's usually some kind of arrhythmia or some electrical thing because the trypanosomes have infected the heart tissue. Okay, when it gets bad enough, so how do they diagnose this? They actually have to do a punch biopsy of the heart and then look at it, and they will see these under the microscope within the heart tissue. And I said, okay, you can probably see the problems with this. You say, okay, their heart is so damaged by this trypanosome, but is the heart the only place that trypanosome is? No, it's going to be in other muscle tissue. And now you take out their heart and you put in a new heart, and what medications are they on? Immunosuppressants. And what's that going to do to the trypanosome titer in the rest of their body? It goes up because they're on immunosuppressants. And so over time, what's going to happen? They're going to have the same problem that they have on the operating table as they're getting rid of the old heart. That infection will come back. Now, there are some medications that help this, but not a whole lot. Not terribly a lot. And by the time it's diagnosed, oftentimes it's already in the tissue. Now, let's talk about the life cycle. Isn't that creepy? I mean, that's really disturbing to me that, this is moving, so we're going to see more of this. So how does this work? This is a kissing bug. So what does it do? It's attracted, it comes out, the females come out at night, they're attracted to the CO2 as you're breathing out, and they will crawl on your face, and they will bite you, and then lay eggs in your skin, and then poop. And then what do? You scratch it, right? So what have you just put in? A bunch of eggs and this trypanosome, if they're carrying it. That's why they're called the kissing bug, okay? Yeah, in the village I lived in, you never sleep on a mattress because the kissing bugs always like the mattresses, right? And so at night, pushing up and all these bugs, it's good. Yeah?
You said it was more common because people got infected and got infected outside of the U.S. and then came to the U.S. This isn't as common in the U.S.?
It's not as common because what? We don't have the vector, but we're seeing the vector move north. So you're just starting your career. You think you're going to see some of this? Yeah. Because, it's not cooling down. So, yeah, it's not cooling down. So that's another trypanosome. Okay, here's another one. Okay, Giardia. I think they look like little aliens. Okay, do not drink the water in any of the streams in our mountains, our local region in Southern California. Giardia is endemic. And Giardia is a protozoan. So you're like, oh, well, I'll just use, a little bit of bleach. That doesn't work. I'll just boil. They have cysts. The cysts are resistant to boiling. Okay, well, I'll just filter it out. Really? These are tiny. This is bigger. This is jumping around like crazy, isn't it? Okay. So, yeah. So, how do you clean the water from Giardia?
Boil it.
Huh?
Boil it.
It doesn't get the cyst. You have to do all three to be safe. You got to do all three. Okay? Just to be safe, I wouldn't drink the water that's flowing in the streams. Yeah.
So, if you filter it, it won't work, right? Because they do sell those straws that filter the water.
Okay, are you willing to bet your health on a straw? Okay, because the range of these cysts are nanometer or millimeter, right? Small millimeter, micrometer, okay? Micro.
I'm just thinking because those have high ratings on Amazon, and I'm thinking how many
I believe everything I read on Amazon. No, that's a good question. There was another question about that straw. Somebody came and asked that in the office hours this week. I haven't done enough research. I know in the military we are told not to use those. So, I'm going to go with what I'm told to do, that they say that they don't work as well. Now, if you want to risk getting a Giardia infection, that's really cool. What is getting a Giardia infection like? It is horrible. It is the worst flatulence you will ever smell in your life. You think C. diff is bad. And the diarrhea that comes along with it, there isn't anything like it. Okay? And it's not like, oh, we'll give you some antibiotics and you'll feel better. This is a protozoan. It's going to take a lot to kill it, right? Because it's eukaryotic You're eukaryotic, right? Got a problem here. So, yeah. And how do you test for this? This is another beast. Okay, you do what's called the string test. You swallow a capsule that has string on it. You hold on to the string and you let it go into your small intestine. That's where these tend to hang out. And then what do they have to do? Pull it up and then look at the string and see if they can make a positive ID on this. Yeah. I wouldn't risk this for a straw. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So wait, protozoans stick to the string?
Yep. And that's how they diagnose this, is the lovely string test. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not willing to risk it. Oh, such a whim. Okay. And then here's a protozoan infection. It's Trichomonas vaginalis. Okay, that causes trichomoniasis. Okay, where do we see trichomoniasis? Where do we see trichomoniasis? What? Okay, you see the vagina, you see it in the muscles, okay? Where does it, okay, it makes cysts as well. You gotta be careful of all of these that make cysts, because whether they're a worm that makes cysts or protozoan that makes cysts, they're gonna be able to survive outside, okay. Yeah, let's look at some creepy things here. Yeah. Yep, that's it. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's not what I was looking for, but we can get that idea there. Ooh. Oh, that looks painful. Oh yeah. Okay, good. That's nice. Okay. Yeah, trichomoniasis. All right. Okay. I'm hungry. All right. Hey, you'll develop a very dark sense of humor to get through all of these. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Here's my favorite, Sarcodina. This causes amoebic dysentery. Okay? I actually got this when I was working in this village because there was dirty water. I didn't know. Natural selection. Anyway, okay, these amoebas, we talked about the amoebas, right? Okay. Where do they like to hang out? Where? They like still water, okay. In you, where do they like to hang out? Okay, stomach is usually too acidic, and again, they can make cysts. So, what have you got here? Your intestines, okay? All right, your intestines, okay? Remember, your intestines are just a tube within you that faces the outside world. So yeah, they like the intestines, and you can see this. I'll preface this where I didn't have this bad of a case because I knew I was sick right away. But yeah, you can see this is a child. Okay, yeah, pretty severe. We are so lucky. I mean, you may not think, oh, well, Riverside water isn't too bad, or you might say, oh, well, microplastics. I'll take microplastics any day over that. Okay, because if you've got a parasitic infection in the intestine, are you just going to have diarrhea? No, it's going to be bloody. It's going to be pussy. It's going to be, you know, and if you're in a tropical region where you've got, you know, where you don't have clean water, I mean, it's not going to be an easy infection to get rid of. I think it took about 3 weeks of treatment for me to get rid of this, okay? But yeah, amoebic dysentery. When you see the word dysentery, think diarrhea on steroids, okay? And oftentimes with a little blood, or a lot of blood, okay? All right, we've got the ciliates. I'm not going to talk too much about this dysentery, but it does, just be aware it does, again, it's a tropical disease, okay? But these, malaria, okay? It's got a vector, right? What's a vector? The Anopheles mosquito, okay? Make sure you know the species of mosquito, okay? The mosquitoes that transmit Zika are a different species than those that transmit malaria, than those that transmit yellow fever, that transmit West Nile virus, okay? All right? In this area, which of those do we worry most about? West Nile. I mean, that's pretty common here, okay? Now, as the climate is changing, we're seeing more Aedes aegypti, which is a species of mosquito that carries a lot of infectious agents, okay? And these Aedes aegypti are different than the Coleus mosquitoes that come out at night and they're kind of ankle biters. These Aedes aegypti will bite you through your jeans, okay? They're bigger, they got, that is like a needle, okay? And we're lucky, if you've ever been in the Midwest or the South in the summertime, you know that those mosquitoes will bite right through your clothing, okay? So here we don't have that problem, it's so dry. But we do have other species we have to worry about. But let's talk about what happens with malaria. So malaria has many different facets of what's going on. As you can see, oh yeah, this is always disturbing. I forgot this was on here. Okay, look at how much of the world is chloroquine-resistant malaria. Okay, and then you've got some areas that are chloroquine sensitive, and then you've got some areas that are multi-resistant malaria. Okay, why? Because it does an antigen shifting that we talked about, right? Where it changes the proteins on the surface, so it evades the immune system. Okay, so when you look at this, the Anopheles mosquito, you notice that you've got two major parts of the infection cycle. You've got the part that goes on in the female, okay? And you've got the part that goes on in the human. And the human, it's two parts. It affects the liver, that's how it enters the body, and then it infects red blood cells, okay? So there's some key terminology on this that you should pay attention to. One is sporozoites, merozoites, okay, gametocytes. All right, why? Because these are different phases in that life cycle. So let me show you something here. Oh, I don't want to show you that anymore. That's gross. Okay. Right. Okay. I don't hear anything. Why don't? Oh, now I hear something. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Wait, not right there.
Always working.
Okay.
Mosquitoes are usually vegetarian, preferring to drink nectar, fruit juices, and honeydew. Only a pregnant mosquito will bite humans, seeking nutrients from blood to nourish her developing eggs. If she drinks blood from someone infected with malaria, she too becomes infected with the disease. The tiny drop of blood filling the insect's stomach is teeming with malaria parasites. The parasite form that is deadly inside humans cannot survive in the mosquito's stomach and is slowly digested with the rest of her blood meal. However, back in the human host, a few of the parasites turned into a different type of cell, one that is sexual but remains dormant. Malaria sex is triggered when the warm human blood begins to cool inside the insect's stomach.
Malaria sex, not
The female form of the parasite matures into an egg. The male form takes a while longer to mature into sperm. This sperm is from an earlier feed. The fertilized cell can glide and begins to explore its new environment. It migrates to the outer lining of the mosquito's stomach before transforming into a cyst.
Uh-oh.
Each cyst produces thousands of thin, tiny parasites which seek out and infest the mosquito's salivary glands. The next time this mosquito bites a victim, the malaria parasite will ride in with her saliva and infect another human. This year, 10% of people on Earth will be struck down with malaria. Most people who die from the disease will be pregnant women and children under the age of 5.
All right, so that's kind of cool to show you. I mean, it's not cool. This is horrible. Okay. And then I'll post this, which is
The
what
malaria
happens in the
parasite.
human host.
With the malaria parasite. Because she is pregnant, she has become hungry for human blood.
Okay, we know that part. Okay, now here's what happens.
The
in
parasite
human
rides the
host.
bloodstream like a network of roads, seeking its first target. The core of your body's blood filter system, the liver. Sensing its arrival at the liver, the parasite searches for an exit. A sentinel Kupffer cell is the entry point to liver tissue. Leaving the blood, the parasite infects a liver cell, killing one or more other cells on its way. Over the next few days, the parasite undergoes hundreds of nuclear divisions, copying its DNA over and over again. A single infected liver cell can create thousands of new parasites. The next generation of parasites are modified to infect a new target. Red blood cells. Inside a red blood cell, the parasite can hide from the body's immune system. The parasite slowly devours the contents of the infected cell and creates more parasites. The infected cell becomes sticky and grips onto blood vessel walls. Once mature, the infected cell bursts, spreading more parasites through the bloodstream. Malaria victims suffer fever, loss of blood, convulsions, brain damage, and coma. This year, 10% of people on Earth will be struck down with malaria. Countless millions have been killed by it. Most people who die from the disease are pregnant women and children under the age of 5.
Okay. So, yeah. So I posted I haven't posted the second video, but I'll post the video so you can kind of see them and go over and match up the different parts of the life cycle with the what you see here. Okay. So, well, part of your assignment is to go through this, make sure you know the life cycle of malaria, and use the correct terminology for where everything is with malaria. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. All right, how do we stop this? Yeah. What? Yeah, DEET works, but a lot of these bugs aren't repelled by it anymore. So, yeah, we try and prevent. We really do try and prevent. And once you can take, chloroquine, and there's once you get it, yeah. Okay, let's talk about toxoplasmosis. I already mentioned this last week before, about toxoplasmosis. Okay, toxoplasmosis is caused by a trypanosome, another trypanosome, okay, that is, it's normally the host for Toxoplasmosis gondii is, felines, cats, okay? And what they do is, they make cysts again, okay, which are dangerous, make the cysts, and they poop the cysts, or they, defecate, and it runs and it can be given to other animals, okay? But this is one of the things that's on your TORCH acronym to remember, right? That's the T, all right? And who's most susceptible? It's pregnant women, okay? And so they tell pregnant women now, that's the first thing, don't change a kitty litter. Be careful around kitty poop and stuff like that, because you can get toxoplasmosis. And like my student, he's been suffering for, 30, 40 years, right? So, okay. All right. Let's talk about some more creepy crawlies. All right, so we've got, yeah?
Question, going back to the malaria,
Yeah.
and based on the knowledge you have and everything you've been around, do you ever see it being a problem in the US?
Yeah, I see it being a problem in the US, yeah. Because why? As soon as that Anopheles mosquito moves north, we're gonna have a problem. And where are you gonna see it first? Where do we see subtropical and subtropical disease first? What? No. Florida, who said that? Good, yeah, Florida. Why? Because Florida's subtropical. It's on the edge of the subtropical. And so, what is it? Out here it's pretty dry. So, but in Florida, it's really moist and it's ripe for mosquitoes, so yeah. So, we had a couple of unusual yellow fever cases, which is a viral spread vector that was in Florida, not this summer, but last summer. And they were not due to traveling outside the United States, okay? And so when you start seeing that, okay, you've got some of the mosquito population that's carrying infections. So that's, that's gonna be the trend, unfortunately, but. Okay, this should be kind of a remembrance from Bio 1. Do you remember all these that you had to learn? Okay. Now, some of these are not real important in terms of human health. We don't see too many attacks by starfish and sea urchins. However, you do step on a sea urchin, you've got another problem. Not too many clam attacks, clam infections, except if you're trying to eat them, right? And then you can get Listeria, Salmonella, a whole bunch of other things, okay? Sponges usually don't go on attack, okay? Jellyfish, they sting, but that's a toxin, it's not infectious, you know. But the worms, bing, 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 Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, and annelids. Okay, and not so much the annelids. What are some examples of annelids? The segmented worms, yeah. Earthworms, okay. They're usually not attacking. Give them time. Okay. Okay, they don't usually attack. But what is a medically important annelid? No, that's a flatworm. No, ringworm is a fungus. That's good though. You're guessing. Keep going. What? Who said leeches? Leeches. Yeah, they're medically. Yeah. Okay, when do we use medical leeches? Tyler, when do we use medical leeches? We use them to leach out blood, but more importantly, when do you use them? Come on, you saw Grey's Anatomy, right? You know? What? Yeah, okay, so you're doing a microsurgery when you're going to get a lot of inflammation. You don't want compartment syndrome, right? So what do? You attach a leech. They do it for tissue grafts. And these are not leeches that they went out to the pond and picked up, right? They're raised sterilely in the lab, and then they can use them. And what can they do? They can remove a lot of excess fluid, okay? So you will see medical leeches used occasionally, okay? Especially if you're doing skin transplants or microsurgery or something like that, okay? All right, but Platyhelminthes and Nematoda, we're gonna have some fun with them. Okay, so these are the parasitic helminths, the flatworms and the roundworms. They are multicellular animals. They are visible. Let me show you a picture I got sent. I'm gonna post this up. I just didn't have time to post it up the other day. Where is it? Yeah. I don't know if you can see this picture. Oh, now I can't see you. Hold on. Right there. You can see this picture. See that picture? Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah, it's big. Okay. All right. I'll post this up so you can see it. Okay, let's know some clinical history here. Child is visiting the U.S. from Venezuela. Having lived there for a while, I know it's no clean water. Okay, this was a child that had this worm. And it came out in their feces, and so they sent it to the lab. Now, I look at that and I note it right away, and you will know it at the end of lecture. That's, okay, it's round, it's got a cuticle, this poor kid. Okay, so why do we care about these worms? Okay, they have sex like crazy. There's a lot of hermaphrodites in these worms. They've got a very highly developed reproductive tract, and they have an outward cuticle that's thick. So let's talk about these worms, because I want you to think about what are the targets to treat these things. Okay, so this is a worm. All right, and I know I'm not the greatest artist, but you look at the ends, and what do you notice about these worm ends? Okay, for these worms that we're going to see, the roundworms, they're pointy, right? makes it nice to burrow through tissue. Okay, all right. So the other thing to think about is, do these worms have a circulatory system? No, they don't. The only worms that have a circulatory system are the annelids, the earthworms, the leeches. These don't. So how do things move in the body? Diffusion. That's the only way it's going to move. And so, to help diffuse through a worm, I mean, the worm is this big, or this big, as you saw with this one, it's got to be moving. And so what it does is it uses a series of longitudinal muscles and other muscles. So you've got these things are moving, okay? Now, you've got a thick cuticle here, okay? So are things going to penetrate this cuticle very easily? No. So, just looking at this, what is a target for treating these worms? Okay, you can try and break down the cuticle. That's a good one. What else would you do? There you go, bingo. Muscle paralyzation. Okay, are you going to have side effects? Yeah, the same muscles that are in this worm, eukaryote, animalia, same muscles in you. So will you have side effects? Yes. Okay, so, okay. Let's look at these. All right.
So when you paralyze the muscle, they die?
Yeah, you want them to die, because if they can't diffuse anything, they can't get any nutrition, they'll die. It may take a while though. So what is, it's characteristic that for you have a worm infestation, a helminth infestation, you've got to be treated for a long period. Yeah, because you got to wait for everything to die, right? Okay. So, what goes in here? Okay, morphology of eggs and larvae in adults. And we're going to look at phylum Platyhelminthes, which are the flatworms, and Cestoda and Trematoda, which are the flukes. The roundworms are Nematoda, and these can be parasitic. And some are hermaphroditic. Okay, hermaphrodites are seen in the Platyhelminthes, and they're seen in the roundworms. Okay, which makes reproduction so easy for these worms. Okay, so let's start with a tapeworm. Here's a tapeworm. This is Cestoda, okay? And where does this usually hang out? In the host? GI tract, right? So it's going to be in the intestine. Doesn't like the stomach too much. It's too acidic, so it will hang out in the intestine. These are hermaphroditic. So they can release lots of eggs. Okay, this is the head of the tapeworm. It's called the scolex. It has suckers and it has hooks, so it hooks into the intestinal wall. Okay. Ew. All right. I know right now it's really popular in social media to say, "Oh yeah, I'm sick because I've got parasites." Have you seen that? People advertising on, yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, I need parasites. I'm going to go to this clinic and they're going to give me this big colonoscopy and they're going to see parasites. All right, let me tell you something. If you got a parasite, you're sick. It's not that, oh, I feel lack of energy. I got brain fog. Okay, hydrate, eat better, exercise. That'll take care of most of it, right? But beware of people who want your money. And especially when they say in this region of the world, oh, you've got a parasitic infection. If you've got a parasitic infection, you are sick. Okay? You don't feel good. You're throwing up. You've got bloody diarrhea. And people, I get sent stuff all the time. Oh, I saw this worm in my poop. It's mucus. Okay? It's not a worm. All right, worms and mucus, my best friend, oh my gosh, she drives me absolutely crazy, okay? She is not a scientist, okay? She is from New Jersey and she's very opinionated. I love her, but she drives me crazy sometimes. So she said, Heather, we've got to go to Palm Springs and get these, what are they, like large enemas. And I'm like, what the hell? No way. And she's like, yes, because you have to clean out your parasites. I'm like, how much are they charging you for this? Well, it's a retreat. It's $3,000, and we're gonna go, and they're gonna clean us out. And I thought, I don't need any cleaning out by somebody. Thank you. She's like, yeah, because it gets all the worms. And I said, have you done this before? And she said, yeah, I saw the worms floating by. I said, it's mucus. It is not mucus. You don't have mucus there. Oh, yes, you do. How do you know? So she went down. She paid $3,000. I did not go. I'd rather spend $3,000 on something else like cocaine. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just totally kidding. I just wanted to see if you were awake. Okay? But she's like, well, we all have parasites. Not really. Okay? If you've got a decent immune system, you won't. We have clean water. For the most part, we have clean food. If we're looking for parasites, I'm going to show you pinworms, which is the most likely parasite. And you have symptoms if you have it. Okay? If you don't have symptoms, you probably don't have one. Have you traveled? And that's the other thing. Have you traveled outside the United States? No. Okay. New Jersey doesn't have a lot of bad water, so got other things, but anyway. So yeah, so think about it. Be careful when people, because you're going to hear this from patients, right? Oh, I sent my blood off to this lab and they told me I had these parasites. If you suspect parasites, you do a CBC. Okay, CBC. And what is it going to show you? It's going to show your blood chemistry, okay, and then do a differential, and then you look for, in particular, a type of white blood cell called an eosinophil. When we do the immune system, we'll come back to this. But you look for an eosinophil. Okay, what is eosinophils? They're only high under two circumstances. Number one, you have allergies, which is most of us right now. Number two, you have a parasitic infection. But they assume it's allergies unless you have some other signs and symptoms, right? They don't go like, oh, your eosinophils are high. Let's check you for parasites. No, why? If it sounds like a horse, it's most likely a horse, right? Okay, so don't be looking for the zebras, all right? Unless they said, now, if you had a patient that came to you and said, okay, I've been living and I went to Sierra Leone and hung out, and then I traveled to India. Now might you think about parasites? Yes. Yeah.
By high, you mean like a high amount of them, or just
High amount of them, yes. I've seen like 44% of the Y cells be eosinophils in a bad parasitic infection. Okay, but they had tons of other symptoms. They had headaches, they had rashes, they had fever. I mean, they were sick. So does that sound like allergies? No. What does it sound like? Sounds like you got something growing in there. Okay. So I just want to make sure, because you will be pressured by patients if you haven't already been, or your family that says, hey, drink alkaline water. Anyway. Okay. So here's the flatworms, and you can see from its life cycle. Okay, again, we've got oral fecal, right? It goes out of the host, gets into cattle and pigs. You've got cysts, okay, and then, yeah, you can infect with the eggs, or, and these eggs actually act more like cysts than they do eggs. They're pretty resistant, okay, and there you go. That's a tapeworm life cycle, okay. Yeah, this is another reason. Cook your food really, really well. Because if your pig or your cow had a tapeworm and you're eating something that the cow would have a tapeworm in, you run the risk of infection. Okay, let me talk about this one, which is a little more, again, tropical, subtropical. And you need this in order to complete the life cycle, this little snail. Okay, so this is an actual picture of what the adult fluke looks like after it's been taken out of human liver. It's visible, okay, it's visible. You think this patient felt good? No. So, all right, so you get these flukes, they live in the water. You can't really see them unless you look for them, but if you're standing, I mean, this happens in rice paddies all the time. Now, we do harvest rice in California. If you've been up to Northern California, we do grow rice here. We have rice fields, okay? But they're not doing it in bare feet. In parts of the world, they do it in bare feet, right? Okay, so what happens? Okay, so this will swim in the water. Okay, the eggs hatch, they go into a snail, then they reproduce, and then the snail releases a larva that's able to infect the human. And this larva is either picked up oral fecal, or it can burrow into the skin. Some flukes really can burrow into the skin, and then it goes into the human host. So if you see standing water and snails, start thinking about flukes, okay? And these, again, are flatworms, okay? These are platyhelminthes, okay? Yeah. Wow. Okay. There we go. So we've talked about Cestoda, Trematoda. Now let's talk about the roundworms. Now some of these you will see, okay? There's about 400,000 species. I love this picture because look at this worm, okay? This is a little worm, not to scale, looks like this one. And this is a fungus that snares them, waits for it to swim by in water or in soil, and then when it detects the worm there, it and swells and grows and kills a worm, and then eats a worm. Yeah, pretty clever, huh? A little worm trap. Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about Nematoda. These are things common, the ones that you will find in Southern California. And this one is pinworm. Okay, this is the anus. This is the pinworm. This is what the pinworm looks like, and you can see the thick cuticle on the outside. You can see that nice thick cuticle. And how does it move things through here? What does it use? Diffusion. Yeah, so it's got to keep moving, right? Okay, let's talk about pinworm. Let's show you some more pictures. Okay. Yeah, all right, I like that one. Okay, I like all of these actually. Okay, why? Okay, pinworms, they make cysts. Okay, they're gonna make some cysts. They're found in soil and water. Okay, and when we usually see this, pediatricians see this. Okay, so it's kids. Why? Because what did the kids do? They went outside and played in the dirt or the sand, and they, right? Okay, and then what happens? They ingest the cysts. The cysts are able to get through the stomach. They get into the intestines, large intestine in particular, and they like it there, and they start reproducing. Okay, what happens? Well, at night, if you ever hear your kids say, "My butt itches," investigate it. Don't let it go. If your butt itches, investigate it. Why? Because these are so common. Okay? These are the female worms that come out of the anus at night to lay their eggs around the anus. And guess what happens? That makes it itchy. And so you'll call the pediatrician, and the pediatrician will say, okay, your kid won a tape test. Congratulations, Mom and Dad. You get to wait until your child is asleep and go with a piece of tape and put it up against their anus after the child is asleep, pull it out, put it on a card, take it to the pediatrician, and they should be able to see the worms. Okay. All right. This happens. This happens. I'm not going to ask you if you've experienced this before. I'll tell you, my neighbors did. My neighbors were on an international flight, and I guess they didn't serve them the best of water. And, well, they serve bottled water, but in the restrooms, that water isn't necessarily the cleanest. And so they all picked up pinworms. So, yeah, so they had a contaminated water source. Yeah, pretty common, how to treat pinworms, yeah. And so oftentimes what they'll do is they'll treat the whole family with pinworms. That's what it looks like. Yeah, so wash your damn hands. That's a line from Typhoid Mary, remember that? Yep, wash your damn hands. So yeah, that's it. Scrub, you need to scrub it because where do they like to, underneath the fingernails, yeah. None of you have really super long fingernails. Yeah, they're all like, okay, cool. I know my Bio 1 students that come in with these big long nails. I'm like, okay, let's culture. Oh, that's nasty. Okay, this mugshot you should see. This looks a little familiar. This is the worm that I showed you on my phone. Okay, this is an Ascaris worm. It's the size of an earthworm. They have the females are much larger than the males. They do sexual reproduction, and they make cysts, and it's transmitted through contaminated soil, contaminated food, contaminated water. Okay? Yeah, these are amazing worms. Okay? What else about Ascaris worms? I know my friends that deployed for the second Gulf War that were working in the hospitals there would say that anytime, because these worms are really endemic in Middle East, Asia, parts of Africa, and South America. And they said that when their ICU patients spiked a fever, they could tell because the worms came crawling out of the eyes and the ears and the mouth and the nose, because the worms didn't like a high fever. But it was really pretty common because in most cultures, we've got, or most not cultures, but in most areas of the world, there are worms. There are worms that co-evolve with us. And I don't want you to think that all these worms are bad. I mean, a lot of these are. But I'll give you an example of worms being used in therapy. Okay? One of the things that we don't see here is a lot of these big worm infections, but we see a lot of autoimmune diseases, right? We see a lot of autoimmune diseases like MS and like Crohn's disease and things where our immune system has lost the ability to tell self versus non-self, right? One of the therapies that has worked in the UK is to give Ascaris worms, little sterile, both sterile as in grown in the laboratory and sterile male worms, okay, in a solution that individuals will swallow, okay? And what that does is that those worms will live about 90 days, 100 days in the gut, and if they're healthy, their immune system will take care of them. But what it does is it provides a target for the host immune system, and suddenly their other intestinal diseases have gotten better. They don't have as much inflammation. Why? Because instead of attacking their cells, now that you swallowed a bunch of worms, they'll attack the worms. Yeah.
So basically they're targets.
The worms are targets for your immune system. Yeah, you're saying, okay, you don't have enough to do? Here's some worms. And in the preliminary phase 2, I think clinical trials phase 3, the patients were begging after the worm. They could tell when the worms died out because their symptoms came back. And so they were begging for this treatment again. So, in the UK and here again, if we have clean water and clean food, we usually don't have to worry about gigantor worms. But then our immune system, starts to get bored. Yeah. Yeah, they just poop them out. They don't even know it. Yeah, they're very small. But, you have to have the right patient. You have to have a patient that's got a good immune system, can do it. It's got to be, a low titer of worms. You got a low number of worms that you give. But this, for autoimmune stuff, these worms have been around on Earth longer than we have, and there's been a lot of coevolution. So yeah, might be the way to go. I don't know. So not all worms are going to be bad, and you want to try and capitalize on what you can.
But does the human body needs them too? So if so, how many? What's the amount that the human body should have?
Have worms?
Yeah.
0. Yeah, we shouldn't have any worms. But we've co-evolved. Okay? But let's look at other things, okay? Let's look at life expectancy. In tropical and subtropical regions of the world, it's not as high as in northern latitudes or extreme southern latitudes. Why? It could have something to do with this. We don't know. There's a lot of confounding factors. But, are we supposed to have worms in us? Not really, no. But have they co-evolved with us somehow? Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's great to be a human. And medicine is an art, right? Medicine is an art. Okay, any questions about these? All right, I'm going to pick your brain. Give me a minute here. Here we go. I'm going to pick your brain. Get your piece of paper out. You're not going to turn this in, but I just want to see where you're at. Okay. See where you're at. Where are you at? Okay, I've got 6 questions. Just answer A, B, C, or D, or E. No F's or G's. Bless you. Was that a hiccup? What was that? Oh, bless you. Wow, I'm impressed. Okay, I'm asking you some questions about the material we just went over and the stuff that you were supposed to read for chapter 6. So let's see how you do. Don't take pictures of these questions. That pisses me off. Yep. Yes, you. Please delete that. Yeah. I'll post them, but if you're trying to take questions and scoot around the rules, that I won't. Okay? All right. So, give me an example of a helmet. A, B, C, or D. Next question. Which of the following is an example of a ciliated protozoan? A, B, C, D, or E? That's what I have to put. Okay. What is the primary mode of locomotion in Mastigophoria? Ready? Bless you. Which of the following is a characteristic of helmets? Bless you. Wow. Yeah, that protein-covered sperm that we know as pollen is a pain right now. Okay, got it? Okay, A, B, C, D, or E. Protozoan are classified under which kingdom? Okay, all right, now we're going to get into the viral stuff. A viral genome can be A, B, C, D, or E. These are things you should have read before you came in today. Okay. All right, which of the following is not a step in the replication cycle? Okay, next. I think that's it. All right, let's see how you did. Okay, let's go back through here. Which of the following is an example of a helmet? C, tapeworm. Good. How many of you got that? Oh, good. Okay. What is the primary function of the contractile vacuole in protozoans? I didn't show you this one, did I? Okay, well, you can answer it now. Which is the primary function of contractile vacuole? Osmoregulation. Good. Which of the following is an example of a ciliated protozoan? Okay, it's got cilia. It's going to be C, paramecium. Okay. All right. That's a little Bio 1 kind of review. So, all right. What is the primary mode of locomotion in Masticaphora? C, flagella. Good. How many got that one? Good. All right. Which of the following is a characteristic of helmets? C. Yeah. Attachment organs like sucker and hooks. What is it called in the tapeworm? Scolex. Yeah. Good. Okay. Protozoan are classified under which kingdom? Protozoa? Which kingdom? Animalia. Yeah. Kingdom of Okay. Oh, I lied. It's Protista. Okay. You're awake. Okay. How many got that one? Oh, good. All right. The viral genome can be E, all of those. Single-stranded RNA, double-stranded. Oh, yeah. Can be all of them. Which of the following is not a step in the viral replication cycle? D, mitosis. How many of you got that one? Okay. Oh, a little bit less. All right, good. Okay, so let's start talking about some viruses. Okay, when you look at this section on viruses, okay, let me caution you on this section on viruses, okay? You've got your PowerPoint. Let that be used as a guide, okay? There's a lot of controversy in terms of how you classify different viruses, okay? You can classify it by what I've showed you here with genetics, but there are other classification systems. So if you start going down the Google rabbit hole, you're going to be very confused. So I'm telling you, what can you use as your guide? I posted this morning. This is viral infections of medical importance. I don't know if you didn't have time to download it before class. But what I've got up here is the DNA viruses, the RNA viruses, and an outline of the viruses. Between this and your textbook, you should be good, okay? And if you say, well, I'm just going to Google, like some of you did on your disease cards, it's going to hurt you, okay? Why? Because you're going to see videos and information from medical school level virology courses. We're not going that far, okay? Or you might find, some that are so easy, it's K-12. That's not going to help you either, okay? I've put up some viruses on here to talk about, to help you. Some of them are pretty good. This is a little bit below what you need to know. Most of these are a little bit below. But I try not to put some things on. This might be a little above what you need to know. But take away at the level is this. This is why it's critical that you read your book, that you know what our level is, that you use this handout. So I've got a lot of questions lately about how do I study for this? How do I study for this, okay? I'm dyslexic. I study very differently than all of you, and it takes me 3 times as long, but I learn it. And how did I do it? When I had something hard to learn, I would take whatever the instructor gave me, have my book here, have whatever handouts, have the PowerPoints, and my notes. If you're just doing your PowerPoints, you're missing out on critical information, okay? Because we talk about a lot of things that are not on the PowerPoints. You have to take notes on that. And you'll say, oh, well, I record. Really? Do you go through and take very careful notes through that? Most people don't. If you do, that's great. But I'm just telling you, most students do not do that. They just are like, well, I'll just listen to it and I'll learn it. No, okay? Remember, if you didn't get where you wanted to be on this first exam, what do you have to do? Change something. Change something that you're doing, okay? And then I would have my notes out. And then I would go and chunk it, okay? Chunk it. So I first learned, you look at what's on the thing. We talk about important viruses, sizes of viruses, and morphology. Okay, I can chunk that. Okay, now I'm going to read through here. All right, what do I have here? And what I have done is created like a master sheet, like a mama sheet. but not a chart, just a mama sheet of, okay, this is what I know about viruses. These are the ones that were talked about in class. These are the sizes, and this is the morphology. And I would, gather that onto one page, okay? And then I'd find the next topic. The next topic we talk about is how these viruses are classified, okay? That's a rabbit hole. Go with what you've got here, okay? Okay, so I know that viruses, we're going to use a classification system that works on what type is their genetic material, okay? There's a whole other classification system that is based on the capsid, all right? We're not necessarily using that one, okay? Then I'd go through and say, okay, how do we culture viruses? That's another chunk. Go through here, use this. When we talk about it, use that too. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, because if you're just saying, oh, I'm reading the chapters, that isn't going to cut it. For a lot of you, this was a wake-up call. Reading a chapter does not do it. It's got to be interactive. And we have a student in our class that is SI for anatomy, and I'm going to post some of the study tips that she has put together for her anatomy SI sessions, okay? All right? You don't pass this class because, oh, I'm not smart enough. If you don't pass this class, it's not about smarts. What is it about? It's about skills. It's about skills. It's about learning how to learn. And you'll say, well, okay, it's fair to say I don't have the skills to pass this class, but let's get you some. We got 15 weeks. This is not a 10-week semester, so we got 15 weeks. Let's change, okay? I'm so happy to see so many of you in student hours and going over your exams, and we're looking at what did you miss? What did you miss? Okay, definitions. Was it stuff we talked about in lecture? Was it stuff from your reading? Was it critical thinking questions? Because how you study is very different. Okay, you've had two classes right now where we have talked about taking notes. Has it helped? Okay, other than having a screen and just filling in blanks, that ain't gonna cut it. Okay, that might have worked in anatomy, that's great. Is it gonna work in nursing? No way. So let's get your skill set up, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, because you can all do this. All right, so let's talk about viruses, and let's talk about our most famous virus that we had, which is 5 years. Okay, now I'm gonna show you this because I'm just such a nerd. Okay, this is called NextStrain. I'll open the link of this. This is an amazing worldwide database, and I'll turn off the light so you can see it from where you're at, that has viral databases from almost every virus that you see that is globally found. We've got Zika, okay, rabies, okay, Ebola. I like Ebola. Okay, Ebola hasn't changed a whole lot, which makes it a nice candidate for a vaccine. Okay, but here's Mpox. Mpox doesn't change. It has a very effective vaccine. Okay, but here's the novel COVID virus, SARS-CoV-2. Okay, now all the things here you think. Okay, so I'm looking at all of this. What the heck does this mean? Here's the years. There's 2019. You notice they've gone back in the time. A few months ago, this was in 2020. Was COVID around in fall of 2019? Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, take it from my infectious disease doc. He has said, if you got sick in November, December, January, like you had never been sick before, you probably had COVID. Okay? Were we testing for it? No, we weren't doing anything. But these are the early cases. And each one of these dots represents a case from somewhere on the planet. You click that dot, and it gives you all the mutations. Okay? Now, that's the original COVID. We don't see the gray popping up too much anymore, do we? We see a lot of this, the orange, the yellows, and that. What is this one? This is Omicron, right? This is Omicron. Okay, and if we go, we can see some mutations. Now, we're watching one particular strain in South Africa right now because it has 46 spike mutations on it. Okay, this is why I get, oh man, isn't that beautiful? What am I looking at here? Okay, this is exciting because this tells you the sequence changes. These are all the mutations that that particular patient had. Okay, so is this free? Yeah, you can play on here and see all these different things and see what happened. Okay, but if you look at the, I can't get back to the, okay, there we go. Is COVID ever going to go away? No. No. So this was a question on the exam. What do we call it when it never goes away? Endemic, right? This is going to be endemic. Could we see a mutation in here that could make it worse than we've seen for a while? Yes. Can we see a mutation that makes it less? Yes. Okay, so let's get you back 5 years ago to COVID. Okay. Oh, we have 1 minute, 2 minutes. Okay, we'll see how far we get. Okay. And we have a,
HIV, but
We have
there are
an
things
ad.
that everyone can do to help prevent it.
yes, please.
In December 2019, the Chinese authorities notified the world that a virus was spreading through their communities. In the following months, it
Don't
spread
pack
to other
up, we got
countries,
2
with
minutes. I
cases
got you for
doubling
2
within
minutes.
days. This virus is the severe acute respiratory
3.
syndrome-related coronavirus 2 that causes the disease called COVID-19 and that everyone simply calls coronavirus. What actually happens when it infects a human, and what should we all do? A virus is really just a hull around genetic material and a few proteins, arguably not even a living thing. It can only make more of itself by entering a living cell. Corona may spread via surfaces, but it's still uncertain how long it can survive on them. Its main way of spreading seems to be droplet infection, when people cough, or if you touch someone who's ill and then your face, say rubbing your eyes or nose. The virus starts its journey
Whoops, okay. This was done in 2022,
here and then hitches a
2020.
ride as a stowaway deeper into the body. Its destinations are the intestines, the spleen, or the lungs, where it can have the most dramatic effect. Even just a few coronaviruses can cause quite a dramatic situation. The lungs are lined with billions of epithelial cells. These are the border cells of your body, lining your organs and mucosa, waiting to be infected. Corona connects to a specific receptor on its victim's
What was the receptor? ACE2, good.
membranes to inject its genetic material. The cell, ignorant of what's happening, executes the new instructions, which are pretty simple: copy and reassemble. It fills up
What kind of virus is this? It just told you. What?
You mean like the genetics?
Yeah, what's the genetics of this virus? It told you like a minute ago. Some of you were packing up. Okay, make sure you know that. Yeah.
virus until it reaches a critical point and receives one final order: self-destruct. The cell sort of melts away, releasing new corona particles, ready to attack more cells. The number of infected cells grows exponentially. After about 10 days, millions of body cells are infected and billions of viruses swarm the lungs.
Have you made antibodies at this point? No. When do you get an antibody response from a new invader? 21 days.
Virus has not caused too much damage yet, but corona is now going to release a real beast on you, your own immune system. The immune system, while there to protect you, can actually be pretty dangerous to yourself and needs tight regulation. And as immune cells pour into the lungs to fight the virus, corona infects some of them and creates confusion. Cells have neither ears nor eyes. They communicate mostly via tiny information proteins called cytokines. Nearly every important immune reaction is controlled by them. Corona causes infected immune cells to overreact and yell bloody murder. In a sense, it puts the immune system into a fighting frenzy and sends...
Okay, I'll stop it here. Please watch this. I'll release it so you can see it, because it talks about the cytokine storm that happens. It's not the virus that kills you, it's your